If someone's written the same book concept as you actually don't need to worry about it. This is actually a good thing and can actually really help your sales. Let me back up a minute. This has happened to me, and this has happened to me several times before, and it works to my advantage. It works to your advantage too. This is my book, Cinderella. Cinderella is a Cinderella retelling where she's an assassin. She goes to the ball to murder the prince, and she ends up having to work with him to find the assassin who is her. She's still hunting him. He's hunting her. It's a whole vibe. After my book came out, all of a sudden, somebody else put out the same premise. They marketed it as a Cinderella assassin story. And then another person did too. And most people would think that that's a very confrontational position to be in because they stole your story idea. When in fact, none of these women did. None of these women stole my story. We all had the same idea. Cinderella as an assassin, that's not the only one. There's lots of them out there, and there's even more as the days go on. So when this first happened, it was a person who was marketing this as a Cinderella assassin not too far after when my book came out. And I could have been a problem about it. But instead, I went and talked to that person and we marketed our books together. Because here's the thing. People like genres, people like tropes, people like to see the same thing in different iterations. So if somebody likes an assassin story, and if somebody likes a Cinderella story, and somebody really likes an assassin Cinderella story, if they read mine, they're likely to read other assassin Cinderella stories. They're likely to read hers, and they're likely to read the next person's. If somebody really likes the Hunger Games, they're going to actively be looking for a YA dystopian chosen one scenario. The details are going to be a little different from book to book. My Cinderella Assassin is dramatically different than the other lady's Assassin Cinderella, which is dramatically different from the third lady's Assassin Cinderellas. And now there's a bunch of them out there. They're all wildly different in their interpretations, even though they have that same overarching theme. People are putting out things that are similar to the Hunger Games, but wildly different, even though it's that same chosen one, put in an arena kind of story. We're getting very, very different storylines from very different perspectives, but we have that overarching theme. I personally loved the Hunger Games. I love Divergent. I love YA dystopia. I love kind of that chosen one vibe. I enjoy those stories, so I seek those out. And I like to see the different perspectives on them. I've had this happen to other stories. I actually interviewed a person here on my channel who had a big name book contract, and she started telling me all about her book and the details of her book, and it was very, very, very similar to a book that I had written. And I could have gotten all upset, but I didn't. Cross-marketing, cross-promotion, working together to build up a certain area creates more of an audience. So let's go back to Cinderella. People like Cinderella retellings, people like assassin stories, people like those darker twists on retellings. So there's a lot I have going for me. If I then team up with those Cinderella authors, which I did, we can then tell people these are good stories. There's a lot of them here if you like this kind of thing. We're building up an audience for that. People now really like retellings where the lead girl is some sort of spy or assassin, and I've written a lot of them. So it is what it is. We've built up that audience. When I first started, I should say, that wasn't as big of a thing. Assassins and retellings and dark twists, most retellings were lighter. They were fluffier. I very much did a lot of darkness, and that was kind of new. And now we have this huge sector of the book community that loves those dark retellings, those assassin retellings, the empowered woman retellings. There's a lot because we've actively worked together to build that up. It existed, but it exists so much stronger now. We all make so much more money from it and get so many more reads of our books because we work together to build each other up. So yeah. People might write books similar to yours, but it's not scary, it's not stressful. It is effective for building up your bank account. It is effective for building up your following. And if you can work with those people, you're going to do better for yourselves, for them, and for the book community as an entire whole. Look for people who are similar. We constantly do that for cross-promotion, but if you're finding people who are very similar, that's a niche. And the riches are in the niches, as they say. So you want to make sure you're doubling, tripling down on that, because it's so valuable to you. Sure, it can feel abrasive, it can feel offensive, but it's not. Most people are not trying to rip you off. Most people will have had those ideas by themselves without you being in the picture, and then you realize something happened. The caveat, of course, is if you have directly told somebody you're writing this story and they've directly tried to rip you off, even that is questionable because it could just be their own spin on these things. So it depends on if it's like your best friend who knew exactly what you were writing and then tried to do it. That's a different situation. That's not what we're talking about here. So there are caveats to that. But for the most part, when you're finding people who are coming up with the same ideas independent of you, that is the time to be their bestie. That is the time to work with them, to build each other up, and to do events and promotion together because it saves you time, it saves you money if you're all working together to build up an audience in the same genre, same trope, same niche, and it allows you to get more readers and more money, which is just so important to us as authors. So with that in mind, we're not going to get frustrated, we're not going to get fearful, we're not going to get stressed, and we are not going to get angry because these things help us. We have to reframe it from the perspective of how can we make this work to everybody's advantage. Very, very few of the people who have written the same or similar things to you stole your idea or came up with that idea because of you. People have the same ideas a lot. And it works to your advantage to then be friends with them. It works to your advantage to build up what you were doing. It works to your advantage to take the time and effort to cross-promote and to work together. And if you're unsure, if you're questioning these things, go and talk to these people. I reached out to the lady who did that Cinderella story after I did mine, not knowing if she had seen mine and ripped it off, not knowing any of those things. But I went to her and talked to her about cross-promoting. And then as I was talking to her about doing some events together and cross-promoting and doing all this stuff, I realized just how radically different our Assassin Cinderella stories were. If on the surface level we just said, Assassin Cinderella, yeah, people could look at us and say, somebody ripped somebody off, it's not good. The second you start to read it, the second you start to see the storylines and the plot lines and all those things, you're going to realize they're very different stories, very different ways of telling these things, very different perspectives, very different characters. Overarching stories, you can't copyright those babies. And so being able to work with these people and being able to check your frustration when it comes to something like this is going to save you a lot of stress and a lot of drama and potentially make you a lot more money. Working together to build up the niches, lead to the riches, because it doesn't rhyme because I don't say niches, but you get the idea. The more that you can embrace what's going on around you, the more profitable it's going to be for everybody, and the more happy and the less stressful it's going to be as you're moving forward in your author life. It's a thing. It's a vibe. It happens. It happens a lot. It happens a lot, even more so now that we have things like Book Talk, where everybody under the sun thinks that they can be an author and is working toward being an author and is putting books out there, and we're getting more and more, and we're building up the industry. Think about what we did on TikTok. I came in as one of the very first people on TikTok, one of the very first authors. I brought hundreds of them with me. And because we created such a strong book talk community, author talk community, it is like the biggest thing on TikTok. They're constantly talking about book talk at TikTok. I work directly with them a lot. It's a huge deal. We built that up because we built that community, meaning there's a stronger community of readers for all of us to get the reads and to get the money and to be able to make a successful journey of our author life. Working together, building each other up, working with what's going on and not tearing each other down is what leads to our success and not our downfall. Just keep that in mind. It's something to consider. Drop your questions down below. If you've not read my Cinderella Assassin retelling, you should. It's fabulous. I did so many cool twists. It's like techie, it's futuristic, it's dystopian, it's amazing. It's so good. It's so good. It's kind of like Mr. and Mrs. Smith for YA, dystopia, Assassin Cinderella. So you're welcome. Grab a copy of Cinderella and drop your questions down below. We'll see you for daily videos helping you navigate the world of publishing, from your writing to publishing to marketing, to make sure that you're not stressing about things you don't need to stress about, so you can be profitable, you can have simplicity and ease creating your content, and you can live your best author life while also still having a life. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes.